Well, okay, I was walking to my third grade class and I passed a kindergarten class. And I saw the kids in there. I heard the teacher say, "Who wants to read a book?" And they were so excited. They were running to the book. There were bean bags. The teacher was reading with a small group. Some kids were reading together. I saw a little girl, and this just made an impression on me. This little girl rose from her desk, ran to the bookshelf, grabbed a book. It wasn't mine. I wasn't a writer at the time. And she took the book and she held it in her arms, okay, like a baby. And then I went to my third grade class and I said, "Who wants to read a book?" Right after what I had just seen. Okay, a few of the kids said yes. Most said nothing. And then a lot of them looked at me and shook their heads and said no. And they were just being honest. They didn't want to read. But at that moment, I had a feeling that maybe a lot of teachers have had, which is like this combination of just bewilderment and brokenheartedness. Because I knew, looking at my third grade students who didn't love reading, that they weren't going to read very much, right? They were already a bit behind. But since they're not going to read very much, they're going to get further and further behind. And their lives were going to get harder and harder. It would affect their self esteem. It would affect their cognitive development. It would affect their later economic possibilities. And I'm just looking at them going, what happened? What happened between kindergarten and third grade? Where did the love of reading go? And that moment became a big motivator for me. I felt that most of those children who said no were missing components of their reading foundation. Okay? Now, there are times when are certain biological issues at play, such as dyslexia and stuff like that. But most of my students were simply missing components of their reading foundation. And my sense was because they were missing these components, they struggled at reading instruction starting in first grade. By the end of first grade, they're starting to really not like reading. By the end of second grade, they're turned off. And by the time I get them in third, they're done with reading. And I started thinking, how can we prevent this? Right? How can we help all students have a solid reading foundation? And I began to do research and think about what optimizes the reading experience for young children. And that's when I started to realize through research from the American Academy of Pediatrics and other sources that engagement, interactivity with a cherished caregiver, and a connection to elements that are very similar to music. A rhythm and rhyme. Repetition creates feelings of success. Books that the children would read over and over again were very helpful for the learning to go from short-term memory to long-term memory. And that's the key, Adam, right? We need these important reading concepts to become internalized. And once they are, we can build on them in reading instruction, which begins often about first grade. So I began writing the stories which had components of reading optimization that I was interested in. And of course, also another big key to my books are resiliency. So I combined reading optimization with themes of resiliency. And that's how the original Pete the Cat books began, and Groovy Joe and the Nut Family, and really everything I've done.